Hey class, back at it here today. I just want to talk to you quickly about a couple things. One is this wire is coated with oil to keep it from rusting, so you'll get some on your hands as you work. Make sure you're really using your pliers a lot because your hands will get tired really quickly. Before you eat and drink, wash your hands, okay? You don't want to get that oil inside your body. You can wear gloves if you want. It'll help you not get poked by the bits. I don't really like wearing gloves for this because it's harder to control the pliers, but you can totally do that. If you have some, that might be a good idea. Next up, I want to talk about how I had my roll of wire here, but I actually meant to tell you last time, you're going to have to cut off a big string of it to get started, because you'll find, like me with my form that I'm getting started on, I can't get this big old roll through the little gaps to weave it, and so if I tried to do it without cutting it off, it'd be impossible basically. So I have to get some of the wire cut off in a big long string so I can have a continuous line of it. And then the difficulty of it is you're gonna have to sit here and like weave it through some of the time, and that'll take you actually going and stringing it and stringing it and stringing it, and it's a lot of wire going all the way through. Kind of hard to show you this on video because, let me see if you can see it a little better. There we go. You know, I'm stringing it and stringing it and stringing it through. When I'm doing that, I noticed something I wanted to tell you earlier, is that it kind of gets kinked up a lot, so you have to be careful just of where the bending points are, so you don't get it into a shape you don't like. And this is what I was talking about when I'm saying about how you can cross over. When you create a crossover right here, it'll be stronger if you have interconnecting wires. Okay, so I can do that, and then I'm actually going to, hard to see on the video again, feed this all the way through here by pushing it hard and really wrapping it around. Okay, so I'm going to pause it for a second because I don't want to hit the camera with the wire, and I'll show you what I mean. So I got it wrapped around inside there. You're going to notice that at first when you're doing your project, it's going to look a little messy like this. You're going to be like, what is he doing right now? It doesn't even look like what he's making. But if you see, I'm comparing it, it actually is starting to look like it, but I have to work in like a mass way first to make it like the big masses. And I'm kind of going to try to develop like a side to it, and then I can start working across as well, which I've been trying to do to get the volume as well. But I can't be too particular at first to try to get every little wire exactly where I want it. Like up here, this is going to be the eye. I'm going to try to do an eye up there in a little bit. I left some wire up there to do it, but I'm not going to try to get it perfect right now because, and get every little detail in the head right now, right here, because I'm going to need to be moving this wire a lot. I'm just going to get kinked up, and I'm going to have to turn it and change it, and if I tried to do every detail right now, I would just be unbending it, right? So I actually firstly just need to kind of get the overall mass done and leave myself enough wire to play with, so that later on I can come in here and use like 2 pair of pliers or just this pair of pliers and really shape like things like the head and the details on the feet. But firstly, I just have to get kind of some stuff masked out. And this is looking a little messy for my liking, but I can fix it as I go. Come back to it and fix it by compressing things together. If I get pieces that are too loose, like this is a little loose, I can kind of twirl it a little bit and take some of the extra out. And I'm kind of working my way down like this, creating a line. That'll be like down to the foot area. And then I'm going to start building it back up and getting some of the depth to it. So if you're at first you're starting and it's looking like a jumbled mess, don't despair right away. Keep building it, and then you can come back and adjust things. I can add more wire and really start to form the specific shape. But that's why I'm telling you, when you're coming up with your ideas, to really make sure you pick something that's more natural, because to try to do geometric things with this is really challenging. Okay, so at first it's going to look a little messy. I've done this, fair number of times, and it always looks pretty messy at first. You got to kind of work through the pain and keep on going on to get the overall sort of skeletal structure and leave enough wire and spots to adjust it. Okay, that's the kind of basic way you want to work. And as I'm working, I'm making sure to really wrap. Use your pliers, but I'm using my fingers so I can get out of the way quicker. Really wrap around tightly. See that? You want to really get it tight in some spots so that you can get a network that you can actually play with and change without everything moving on you constantly. I mean, everything's going to kind of move on you, but I mean, you want to have a tight joints. These are like joints, wire joints, so that you can actually work with it without it completely falling apart. If I just had this go over it, like just sit on top of it, when I tried to tighten it to something else, it would just crush the shape. But if I use it like a network or a net, like I've been talking to you about, then you can build a form without it losing all of its shape. And then when you go to change things, like up here, this is not going to work for me at all. I can actually change it without it losing its shape because it's got other pieces holding it in place. And right now, this would be me looking down on the dinosaur, and I don't really like how narrow it is, so I'm going to start building it back up this way and getting it thicker so it starts to take on some three-dimensional form. This is like it's kind of messy looking, but I could do bigger gaps, but this is really tight right here. I mean, bigger volume. This is pretty tight right here, so I want to really define it. Over here, I might do some parts that are a little bit bigger than my drawing to get like a sort of feeling of the volume, but I'm liking how it's going, even though it seems messy right now, because I can come back here and clean up some things, run some wire down this way, and give it that silhouette that I like. So it's actually going better than it looks, because I know I have a plan in my mind. I'm keeping on looking at the drawing, looking at the wire, and saying, okay, I'm actually building up right here right now. The shape's a little off, but I can come back in here and build up and kind of get the line a little cleaner at the edge, right? So this is the way you're going to want to work, if that makes sense. If you have problems or questions, comment, okay? So in the question and answer cafe or the in progress wire discussion, okay? All right, I had a problem with a piece down here that got really, really bent up so much I couldn't even do anything with it. It wasn't moving anymore with the way I wanted. And I have this part of the neck that's coming into the big body of the brontosaurus. See? It's going to come down here. And I'm trying to work, I'm working it up. It's going to be, I can still bend it and move it a lot, so I'm going to try to work it so that it becomes part of this body part of the brontosaurus, and I can kind of loop back in and build this up. See how it's hard to show you on the camera a little bit. See how it's sort of building, let's see, get this out of the way. It's building up that detail right there. Built up the detail, the neck, and I'm building up this part of the brontosaurus. That's going to be the body. I had a piece right here that got messed up fully, so I had to like cut it off, and which I didn't want to do because I'm trying to do it as much as possible in one big line. But it's going to happen to you too. You get something that's just not working. What I did is I cut it off, and then I left a tail, and I wrapped it and wrapped it and wrapped it around this a bunch of times. That way, when I cut it off, it's really joined. And this is a strong piece I can just bend and manipulate now pretty well. I want to be clear about something too when I do this. I'm doing it really intentionally so that I know I leave a tail so I can do it. But also, I have this little end here. This is very sharp. Wrapping like this and then little sharp pieces. It's basically kind of how they make barbed wire, right? So you're going to want to be really careful not to get your hands with this stuff and these little tails. You want to make sure you bend them down and really try to get rid of the sharp parts. And you can really see what I'm doing on some of these joints. If I don't like how they're coming apart, I can come back to that thick piece right there and really push down on it and get it together a little bit more. So I'm building up the form like this, and it's coming along actually, even though it doesn't quite look like it yet. But you can see how up here I'm also not super stoked about the way the head is looking, so I'm going to have to take this extra wire I have left over and kind of mess with it to see if I can get the eye and the mouth a little bit. But like I said before, I'm not going to do that till later because otherwise I'll just be undoing my work. But do you see how I came back with a wire and got a strong line coming through? I need to still fix it in some spots, but it's starting to get more and more like a dinosaur. Well, I'm discovering a problem that I have. I thought to myself, oh, you have tons of wire you left over. You'll be able to do a lot of this dinosaur with this much wire. Well, now that I'm seeing it, I'm down to the end of my wire that I had cut off, which was probably about at least 3 feet, and I've only gotten this much of it done. So, I've done this a lot, but not everyone is going to have these things happen, because no matter how many times you've done it, you've never done the exact thing that you've done. You've never made a dinosaur out of wire. And so we're going to end up with problems like this where you're like, okay, now I have part of it, but I'm out of wire. What do I do? Obviously, you have to add more wire. But how do you do it in a way that's going to help you make it successful, not make it more difficult, right? This is the issue. Well, one thing is, like I just told you a minute ago, if you have to cut a piece off, you're going to want to wrap it a lot so that you really connect them together so that it doesn't have a bad connection, and then make it impossible for you to bend it and move it without the whole thing just shifting around on you like a moving part. So one thing you can do is make a little J shape on both sides. Okay, and then when you hook them together, that'll help you. You have that hooking together. Can you see it? There you go. And then you wrap them around each other. Okay. And then once you wrap them around each other, you want to really, really spend some time. It's hard to do it and talk about it at the same time because your brain doesn't want to work that way. You're going to want to spend some time really getting those. If you can see, I'm trying to really make a big circle, like really wrap them around each other so they actually stay together really well. And I'm doing the same thing I was doing before when I'm getting the wires fully wrapped around each other. It's going to create a little bit of an awkward joint. So wherever you do it, you need to know that you don't mind it being there. I'm doing it on the neck part where I'm at because I'm going to need to build that whole area up anyway. I know I do. So I'm not too worried about having some big joints right there because I want the density there anyway in the sculpture, okay? If I didn't want it there, I could have taken this line out somewhere else, like off of a different part, and it would have been fine too. Same strategy, and I would have been able to do the exact same thing, okay? So that's just a way you can get that going. So I'm making more progress. I just want to show you what I'm doing now. I have the head up here, and I got to develop more of the density of it, the neck. Now I'm kind of working my way down with this wire. Firstly, just to develop the big body part of the dinosaur. So I gotta bend it and shape it, but that's going to be the underside of it. And it's going down into the tail. And I can come back in, and once I wrap it down, I'll wrap back and start developing the body of it. And this is how you can see how it's becoming 3D off the drawing, because it's getting the density. And I'm going to want to keep building up over here and getting more of it. When I wrap back, I'll build the body, and I'll also add some more pieces so it starts to have the full effect. You can see how if you look down this way, it's only kind of one side right now, so I'm trying to develop the kind of web like a basket out further. And I'm not worrying at first too much about the exact accuracy, but I am leaving enough wire to where I can come back and work, but I am trying to be overall pretty accurate with the shape. That's why this is really important they have something with a strong gestalt, because you can't get every little detail, but you can get the outline and the shapes correct, and then it'll look like it, and you can see how it's building up into that dinosaur form. I'm not totally stoked about how much of the wrapping is dense in some spots, so you know, I'm gonna have to come back, and I might actually, once I get it really tight, cut out a few pieces, or cut some of these. I will definitely cut some of these tails off like this. I don't like at all, for example. And I'll actually come in and get really close with my plier and get rid of that, because that's craftsmanship right there. I don't want that weird little piece hanging out. So that way I can keep keeping it really nice and smooth and clean. It has a quality to the line of the wire. I've told you multiple times on this to work with the wire as it wants to work in the videos and stuff. Well, this is why, because wire doesn't really want to be perfectly geometric all the time. You can make it do it, and people do, but it's really challenging to do it that way. So you're better to work with it the way it wants to be worked with, the way the material functions best. And if you think about wire, it's really malleable and good at like lines, but it's not really good at like being exact planes, like 45-degree angles, because it's not made that way, right? It's made to be able to be hold things together, wire stuff together. We use it to like join gates and fences and barbed wire. None of those things are very like geometric in the sense of they're not like squares. There are some squares, of course, in fencing, but usually even they are like have a kind of little bit of bowing to them. So you kind of work with the way you want to work with materials that the way that they kind of are in quotes intended to be used, because then you're not fighting the material all the time. Of course you can fight it, and sometimes you'll get really interesting results by taking a material like wire and trying to make it really geometric. It'll be interesting because you're forcing it, and it does interesting things. But in general with materials, it's a good idea, I think, to use the material that best fits your idea. And since in this case I told you what material to use, wire, then you want to match your idea to wire in a way that makes sense. So you have an overall gestalt, because you're not going to be able to get the individual pieces to stand out so much, of something that is legible. You can read what it is. It's not geometric or machine made. It's got a biomorphic living type of form, and I'm working with it in a way that matches that, because it's the way wire wants to work, building up the volume, making an interesting line in the wire, and I'm going to keep building it up. I think it'll look really interesting. Is it perfect? No. I could come back and adjust things. Like I said, I will adjust shapes, but this is starting to go the right direction. And you can see what I'm doing now out of the bottom of this is I'm trying to develop the belly of the dinosaur off of these pieces. I'm going to be attaching, and I attached another piece, but I'm still not long enough, so I'm going to have to go back in and do the same trick again. So make sure you use a big old long line of it at first. And if you have to attach it, then attach it in spots like down here. I'm fine with it being more of a focal point because there would be density to the body there, so I was okay with just wrapping it like that. And then I can use it, form it like it's one piece because I wrapped it so many times together. It's moving together like one piece. It's not shifting around all the time. Okay? Like if I try to attach a little piece right here and to there, it would shift constantly up and down, up and down, up and down. And that's not what you want. Alright, this is going to be the end of this video, 20 minutes. I'm going to keep working on it and I'll show you some pictures of it / another video as I go along. So you have the first one about the drawing and getting started playing with the wire. This one will get you going. See how I'm building 3D form? I'm not doing a drawing, I'm building up the 3D form. I need to build up more here, but it's actually got depth, height, width to it. So that's what I'm going to keep doing out of the bottom and building up. This is going to have density or volume to it, even though it's not actual volume because, you know, it's space. It's going to define the space through the line work of the wire, like we talked a lot about in the lecture presentation. All right, keep on working out there, guys. Post questions you have about anything in the question and answer cafe or the in progress critique. That way you can get help and feedback and post pictures and things, and I can do Zoom calls with you if you're having a hard time as well. Okay, take care.